All right. Hi, my name is Jeff Harold from the Lake County Art League, and I'm here talking to Karen Sako, who is an artist who is going to be doing a presentation for us or a demonstration of cold wax use in oil painting. And I guess you can use it for acrylics too, or is it just like oil?
I've only used it for oil, and the only time I've ever used it with acrylic is just to do a final top layer to
Yeah.
kind of bring down the shininess of the acrylics.
Okay. Well, if you want to find out more about how that works, you have a different art league than ours. You can always call Karen and have her demonstrate that for you. I'm looking forward to a demonstration myself. So, Karen, let's start with a little bit about you, your history. How did you get into art? When did you get into art? Was it a 5-year-old finger painting, or what? What inspired you?
I just grew up drawing and painting. That's all I ever did. I wouldn't join Girl Scouts, even though my mom was like a troop leader. I didn't want to join any activities. I didn't want to take dance classes. All I wanted to do was stay home and paint and draw. And I played with my little wooden blocks. And I would draw on anything and everything. And in the house my parents still have now, I'll still find my name and little drawings and stuff all over on, in the garage, on the drywall, and anything I could draw on, I was drawing on. So that kind of was just the thing that I did from the very beginning.
Oh, okay. So you're basically born with a pencil or a crayon in your hands?
Absolutely. And I think my biggest influence was my dad used to always decorate our lunch bags when I was a kid. Every single day, he would do hand-drawn letters and little cartoons and stuff for my sister and I. He would put little notes in our lunch bags. So they were like completely drawn with markers and really cool. So I just think my dad being creative like that just kind of inspired me because I wanted to be like my dad.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good. So where did it go? You're inspired by your dad, you're growing up. I imagine you took the art classes in high school. What happened after high school? Where'd you go?
Art classes in high school, I started teaching when I was 15 at a Montessori school right across the street from the high school. They had a class for 4 to 6-year-olds, and they asked at the high school if anybody wanted to come in and work. And I said I would definitely like to. So that was like my first actual teaching job. And after that, I went to a small school out here in Wheeling, and that school closed down. And that's when I then went to Main Street Art Center. And I was there for about a year when they asked me to start teaching classes with them. And I've been at Main Street for 26 years.
Wow.
So basically, I've been teaching, almost my whole life. I've been involved with teaching in some capacity.
Yeah. Well, at least from the time you were about 15.
Yeah, from the time I was 15.
So that's a lot of teaching. What do you enjoy about the teaching? What do you find? Do you find you have benefits yourself from teaching?
Absolutely. That is the best benefit of teaching, because I learned so much from helping other people. And whenever you have a group of artists together and you can all like conspire and talk and listen, it's just helpful for you. So the more I help somebody, the more it helps me when I run into the same thing. So a lot of times I'll just even sit in a class and I just listen. I just listen to the instructor and what they're saying to everybody else around. Because a lot of times everybody wants to put their earphones on and just focus on their own work. But it's so important to hear that, because sometimes what they're explaining to somebody else is vitally important to what you're working on.
Yes. Well, I find that because I teach Photoshop and other, photography, and I've done that for quite a while. And I learn probably as much every class as the students do, just purely because they'll ask questions that I might not know the answer to. Or I'll have new techniques I want to show them, and I have to learn them. So
yeah, it pushes you to be more adventurous too, because I need to know how to do a little bit of everything.
Yes.
Depending on what style you come with and what you're interested in, I have to be able to adapt to you to make sure I can give you the information that you need.
Yeah. You don't want to be sitting there, them asking questions, and you saying, "Oh, I don't know how to do that, so we're not going to talk about it." Worst case, you say, "I don't know how to do that, but hey, let's hit it next week. I will show you how to do it because I will learn it."
Absolutely.
So okay, after high school, you went to college? What, you have a Bachelor of Fine Arts?
Yes. Yeah, Bachelor of Fine Arts in Visual Communications. So I went to school at the Illinois Institute of Art for graphic design, basically. So I came out of college later than most people. I was 27 when I eventually graduated from college. And I got my first job in a design studio doing package design. So I was an in-house designer, and I did everything from designing displays to designing packaging and the actual products that went into our packaging. And we were in mass stores like Target, Kmart, Kohl's, all like the big, mass stores.
Yeah.
And that was a really good experience for me. It really taught me a lot. And that's when I kind of realized one day, about 5 years into that, with the heavy deadlines and the pressure, that I took a trip up to the clearing up in Wisconsin and took a nice little workshop with Frankie Johnson. And it changed my life. And I came back to my graphic design job and I handed them my resignation right there. And I said, I don't want to do this. I want to be an artist. So I still do freelance graphic design work, but I get to pick and choose my jobs. And I've been working, with one particular group. I do a lot of ad specialty stuff for like Komatsu earth moving equipment, different places like that. So I get to design patches for hats and t-shirt design. So it's limited capacity, but I just really don't want to have anything to do with graphic design anymore. My main passion was always art, and I felt like I gave that up in order to have a job where I could make money.
Yeah. So the commercial part of it is more just a supporting yourself with the, if the art doesn't fully do it, you can rely on some income.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical.
Project.
Actually, I need that extra income from the design aspect.
I think I know a couple of artists I've talked to about stuff like that, and they do basically the same thing. They've done some work for commercial purposes, and it's mainly for getting the art. Photographers do that all the time. They'll do stuff commercially, like even wedding photography, stuff like that. But they really want to be able to do, fine art photography or something else. So it's sort of a compromise I think all of us have to make at some point.
Absolutely. And I'm just now at the point where I'm ready to take back what it is I've always wanted to do. And I definitely think the graphic design helps my art, and I think the art helped my graphic design. So the two things definitely helped each other and helped me be better at both mediums. But, it's all the same. The design principles are the same, whether I'm working on a logo or, a package design, or I'm working on a painting. Yeah. So that's where I found the consistency between the two disciplines.
Okay. All right. Well, we already mentioned you working on a painting, so let's go into that.
Okay.
How do you start a painting? Do you have a creative idea that you start with? Do you do like some people I know? One person I was talking to just starts, puts lines on the canvas and just goes from there and just sees where it takes it.
It's a little bit of everything like that. So sometimes I do just grab a really big brush and I just make some marks on the canvas and I look at the shapes that I made. But sometimes I do have an idea in mind and I think about composition, or what I do a lot is I go to my old sketchbooks and I'll flip through like little collage meditations that I did maybe 5-6 years ago. And I'll look at that design and then I'll adapt it to a painting. I might have liked the color or just the composition, and that will help me get started on painting.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have I'm sure in art school you studied some different movements, art movements, through the centuries, what have you. Do you have any one in particular that, you really like or really influenced you, or something you'll go back to just for ideas?
Yeah, my main two influences early on was the old masters at the Art Institute. And I can remember the particular painting that kind of set me into this whole like graphic design path. And I don't know the name of the artist because it is unknown, but it's a painting of an old man and it's about Job. And he's got words in Latin and gold like coming out from his mouth. So it looks like a modern day poster or the cover of a magazine. And it was from Seville, and I think the King of Spain owned it, and somehow it came into the possession of the Art Institute. So it was the coolest painting. So whenever I hit the Art Institute, I go straight to the old masters and the Hall of Armor, or I go into the total modern contemporary wing. I can walk right through the Impressionists, like whatever, seen it, don't care. But I
Come
can
on.
spend hours
That's
studying
my
the great
favorite
masters.
group.
It's just, and I don't know why that is. That's just where I'm at now. But even when I was in France and I went to the Louvre, I was by the really old, ancient, illuminated manuscripts and then super ultra modern art.
Yeah.
And everything in between just kind of doesn't really interest me so much. And that's what I try to put into all of my paintings. I try to put in the contrast that you see in the great masters, small little detailed areas, and then big, wide open areas as well. So that influences me in all of my paintings. And as far as artists who really influenced me, Francis Bacon and Goya. Those were two of my favorites. Of course, Rembrandt. And I love the Dutch masters. So that's the stuff that I will always gravitate to. And the other person that I've always loved is Frank Frazetta, who was the guy who did the original Conan the Barbarian comic books, and he did the Death Dealer. And back when I was first starting to paint at a small art school, I would read their graphic novels and I would paint his characters. And he is probably one of my ultimate favorite, top 3 artists.
Oh, that's nice to know. You're talking about the one where it was an old man. I think he called him. He referred to him as Job.
Yeah.
Is you did a painting sort of based on that, right?
No, I did not do a painting based on that.
I was gonna say, because you have one. I'll have to look at it again. We'll look at I'm gonna look at pictures on your website in a few minutes here, and you have one on there that just, when you said that, that was the first thing I thought about. Was the one painting on your website that I saw, and we're gonna look at those in a second.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I also noticed that on your website, you have a section of collaborative art with Rachel Joyce.
Yes.
Right? Is that her name? Did I get that correct? And it's called Joyco.
Yes,
right,
we just combined our last names.
You combine your last names, yes, which is interesting. And how did that collaboration start?
Rachel and I have worked together at Main Street for many years, and we just kind of hit it off, and we were really good friends, and we have a similar style. And it was a couple of years ago at Christmas time, and I was like, there's this really cool art fair coming up downtown Chicago, but I don't have enough money to get my own booth. You want to go in with me? And Rachel said, yeah, we'll split the cost. So I'm like, well, let's make some art together that we paint at the same time. We can videotape it so that we can show the videos at the show so people can see how we actually made the artwork. And that was our first time trying it. And we work so well together, it's almost scary. It's like the two of the same people. There's no, I don't want you to change this, or no deliberation. We just both equally may paint over stuff the other person painted, and we just kind of look at it together. We sit there and critique it, and we just make changes, and it's been great. And since that first show that we did, we actually do live paintings in people's homes, where we'll go and, like, say, set up in their garage, and we'll look at the colors that are in a particular room that they have, and within 3 hours, they'll have a large abstract painting varnished and installed in their house. Wow. So that's been a really kind of fun side thing that we do. So we were talking about Joyco, and I'll just finish with Rachel and I just launched our artwork together on fineartamerica.com. So now people can buy our little abstract paintings and put them on pillows, on yoga mats, on beach towels. So it's like a cool new way that we're trying to bring our art to more people, so more people can see it and enjoy it and afford it.
Sounds like a great concept. Let's go to your website for a second.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen here. Okay, you should be looking at the screen.
Yes.
And you can see that. It's just got your artwork on it. This is the website for anyone who wants to go to it. It's, again, it's Sako Studios. And this is your work, and it's absolutely fantastic abstract work here. The one thing that I have to throw in here, okay, is when I was looking at this is the one that really got my attention.
Yeah, I love that painting.
this is the one that I felt I could see some impressionism in here, along with some abstraction. Because
Yeah, that was one of my students that was sitting at the front of Main Street Art Center on break. And so someone might recognize the chair and the rug. And I just looked over at him and I just had to take a picture, and I'm like, are you okay if I, paint you? I love the lighting and the way and the pose that you were sitting in. The clothes that he was wearing were so interesting. And he's like, yeah, go ahead. And I had it like all planned in my mind before I started it. So I did abstract out a lot of the background because it was unimportant. Yeah. And that painting was 30 by 40. And I sold it the first show I brought it to. So no one ever really got to see the painting because someone walked in and said, I want that painting. It reminds me of someone that I knew in high school that passed away. And I just can't stop looking at it. And I'm like, awesome, I'll wrap it up right now. It's yours. So it makes me a little bit sad that it sold because that was probably one of my favorite paintings I ever did.
And I find that too. Some of the work I've sold, people have talked to me, and I sold a couple pieces one time at Starline factory, where the person said, oh, I have to have that because we were in Paris and we didn't really have anything to bring back to remind us of it. And the picture that I had sold them, actually, I had intended to be an impressionist view that was supposed to give you the feeling of being in Paris. And I find that a lot of people buy things because there's some sort of emotional value to them or a connection to something in their life. So
absolutely. And that's, something that you can never, bet on. Someone's going to walk in and either like it or not. And that's one thing I've learned from years and years of showing now is that not everyone's going to like my stuff, and that's fine with me.
Yep.
But if you don't like it, move on and keep looking at some other stuff so the people who might like it can get up and check out the painting, So I've grown a thick skin. I used to be very sensitive about it, and now it doesn't bother me at all. Everybody's different, and everybody likes something different, like you said, because you connect with it on a different level.
Yes. But that was, like I say, that was the subject, and the style to me said you had an impressionist influence there. So you may not like them, but there's some there. And if you go down, look at some of your other ones down here, I'm seeing the same sort of thing of the impressionists where they paint ordinary people doing their thing, just being there. But when you talk about that picture of Job from the Old Masters, this is the picture that immediately struck my mind. Mind. And I didn't know if I didn't remember whether it had Latin in it or not, like you were talking about. But this is the one that sort of, I thought about right away when you made that comment.
And I guess it does, now that you helped me connect those dots there, but this was a painting. It was one of my very first cold wax paintings I ever did. And I used to be heavily into collage and was an active member in the Midwest Collage Society. So I was always like trying to do mixed media things, and I was introduced to the cold wax medium. And that's when my mind was blown, and I realized I could do everything that I've been doing with mixed media with my first love, which is oil paint. And ever since then, I kind of put the pastels and all that other stuff aside, and I just focused on the cold wax medium. And I'm glad you're showing this too, because sometimes people feel like, oh, I have to just do an abstract painting with a lot of texture to use cold wax. But that's not true. Cold wax is just a medium that you mix with your paint. You can paint anything with it. You're just going to get different effects.
Yeah, and that's one interesting thing about painting is because you can get different effects with different techniques. Even with even within oil painting, I've seen stuff where, using a palette knife gives you one effect. How loaded it is gives you another effect. So, yeah, they're all tools.
Absolutely.
And you use them to express yourself with them. So, okay, but there's also some other ones in here. I know you're plein air things, paintings. I know you do a lot of that, and again, those remind me of impressionism.
Well, it's really funny too because
I hate hitting you on that, but it's just, I'm sorry, it's my favorite.
No, I love it. It's good. Call me out. That's great. But it's like, I do not consider myself a very good plein air painter by any means. I'm still relatively new at it. And I don't feel like it's me yet. I haven't found me in the things that I paint. So I'm still too concerned about making it look like what's in front of me and capturing the right colors. And, you know, I'm oversensitized by all the stuff and the cars in front of me and the people talking to me. But what that helps me to do, I consider it studies, is when I get into the studio and I go to do a big giant abstract painting, that helps me because I've studied shape and form and just seeing and capturing the bare minimum of what I need. So even though they're not really my style, I will completely agree with that. It does help me then when I come back into the studio.
Yes.
So painting all summer long, and I've been really focusing on nocturnal paintings, which none of them are up there because they're terrible. But not everyone's going to be good at everything, and that's why I like to do it, because it really pushes me out of my comfort zone. Yep. And how am I ever going to get better at everything if I don't try everything? You know, so
yeah. At some point, yeah, you try everything, and I fully agree with that. You have to recognize at some point, no, this isn't working for me. So, hey, I tried it. Let's go on to something else.
Yeah, and I would say for sure it is not my thing. I would never say an accomplished plein air artist, but I do love doing it, and I do love, you know, being outside and talking with people. I like the whole experience, and I always have a crazy story about every one of my trips out, but it's just more about the study of it that helps me when I come back to the studio.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, you know, plein air, I relate to that from the standpoint of photography, because basically, you know, a lot of plein air artists that I've been out with, you know, a lot of times they just take a picture, go back to the studio and work from that. And, you know, from me, from a photographic standpoint, I'm basically doing the same thing, because I'm taking a picture, but it may not end up like that. Because you go back and change it. I'll apply certain techniques to it. I have some where I take a picture and I have a specific technique in mind that I've done as part of a series, something like that. So a lot of times when I go out to the plein air events, which I've been doing with the Lake County Art League, I'm there just to get pictures that are like notes or things that I can possibly use in another way. You know, so I can understand, you know, where you're coming from in that sense.
And it's also a really good lesson about just studying composition and how in this big giant area are you going to pick one little piece of it? What's interesting to you? What is it that you liked about it that made you want to paint it?
Yeah, this is one that I was looking at before, and I love the fact that you've got the texture in it. You can see the three-dimensionality of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you did with a palette knife or a brush or what. But I sort of associate this sort of thing with a palette knife.
Yes, I use a lot of palette knives. I use brayers, I use squeegees. But what I mix in the paint is I mix cold wax medium, and then I mix another medium, which is marble dust. Yeah. And I mix marble dust into the paint, so it kind of absorbs the paint and will dry it a lot faster. And then I can get super thick texture. So I'm not using as much oil paint, and I'm still going to get a really nice film barrier, so it's not going to be, you know, the whole like fat over lean thing where you're going to crack your paint. Yeah. So I'm ensuring that I can put massive amounts of paint on there, and it's going to dry, and it's going to be nice and solid, and then I can come back in with tools and scrape pieces of the paint out. And I think in that piece that you have up, you can actually see in there that I scraped down through all the layers to show some of the original like blue color to peek through.
Yeah. Yes. Good. Okay, I wanted to go to the Joico section of your website, and this obviously is Rachel.
Yes.
You in this picture, and if I remember correctly, yes, we have some work down here that this was done by the two of you.
Yes, that's our first initial launch of work. We do have some new pieces that we've made this year, but it looks like I haven't uploaded them yet. So I need to get in there and update that.
Yes, yeah, here it is. This is the one that I was sort of looking at before, and I found interesting.
And that painting was made out of a sheet of 30 by 40 masonite board that before we painted on it, cut it up into 6x6 squares. Then we laid them all together and did a painting. And then we separated all the paintings and we looked at them, and then we would touch them up individually if we felt like they needed a little bit more correcting. So if somebody wanted to buy our modular framing system that we have, they could pick any paintings they want, but if they wanted 3 that came in a row that were like right next to each other from the original painting, they could.
Yeah. Huh. Oh,
And so these are just little tiny pieces of a big giant painting.
Well, one of the things that struck me about this is when I first looked at this, the first thing I thought about was Picasso. Just because I'm looking and on the left-hand side here, I don't know if my cursor is showing up or not, but to me, it's like it's a bass, a string bass staying there, and it with the lines over here on the right-hand side of it. It almost looks like the outlines of like people, the way Picasso would sometimes do. Especially in their, I don't know what deformed states or how you want to describe it, how you deal with people. It was interesting, but I found this one to be very interesting.
Well, I absolutely love that because that's what we look for. I don't want to tell you what it was or what I was thinking about at the time. I want to know what you as the viewer sees in it. So I absolutely love when people tell me they see something different. They might ask me my concept and, they're like, oh, that's not what I was thinking at. So sometimes I try to leave that out. If it's not completely obvious when you look at it, I want you to come up with a story. And I love the fact that you see something completely, I would never have seen that in there, but I love that you did.
Yeah. And, you see that a lot of times. That you see something and it's interesting to see what someone else sees. And I know recently in the member show in the fall, we were talking about the piece that I'd entered with Ann Rins. And I had actually intended it to be a comment on how we build so many things. We build our entire world out of geometric forms. I mean, almost perfect geometric forms. And that was one of the things that I was getting out of the piece myself, was what I wanted people to see. And so I was interested to see that she didn't see it, but once I explained that to her, then she said, "Oh yeah, I agreed. I can see how you're doing that." So, and you're right. It's nice to see what other people see in your work rather than you telling them.
Yeah.
Because, ideally, I think the ideal is that if I create a work and I have a specific purpose for it, or I want to express a certain moment or emotion or whatever, it's nice when someone comes back and says, that's what it is, or that's what I've got. That's the ideal. But for people to come back and just like your work, regardless of what they see in it, that's a good thing. So, okay. All right. Anyways. So that's really about it. You already talked about your creative process. Do you have any upcoming events? Should I bring up your events here?
Yeah, you definitely can. I have a show that's coming up. That's what this is for. This is for a gallery that's out in Richmond, Illinois, and they classify themselves as a dark art gallery. Which I don't necessarily consider myself a dark artist, but I've been involved with them since they first opened. So I always take the challenge when they have a new show coming up, and I try to come up with a concept that will fit their theme. So this one is called Carnival, and it's all about, the merriment and what happens in a carnival setting. And so the artists could run wild with anything they thought that word meant to them. So I did this fortune teller, and this is going back to my roots with mixed media. There is a lot of collage in here. I have gold leaf in this painting, acrylic, fluid acrylics. I have tar gel in there. I drew in there. And then the little tarot cards are all made out of oil paper, and they're all little individual paintings that I then glued into the painting.
Wow.
So this was a challenge for me. This is not my normal the normal thing I do, but I love getting a challenge and I love trying to put something together. And I worked so hard to get this done by the deadline and come up with something that they would accept. So
Yeah.
I was really honored and pleased when they were like, oh, we love it. Definitely
Yeah.
bring this painting in. So that will be February, I believe, 17th through March 27th, off the top of my head.
February 13th
13th, okay.
through March 27th.
Yes. So, and they will have two of my other paintings there that are just abstract paintings that were in a recent show called Exodus, and they're going to keep them there for this next show. So I will have 3 paintings, and a couple of my other friends have paintings in there as well. So you'll always see, you know, a little following of some Main Street people out at that show. So if anybody wants to come out and see it, it's just incredible art from people from all over the world.
Okay, and this is is that pronounced Aeon Gallery?
That's how I've always pronounced it, but I
Aeon?
could be pronouncing it incorrectly.
It's in Richmond, Illinois, and
Yeah.
I looked that up on the web and looked at what they have out there, and quite frankly, to call that a dark art gallery is almost an understatement because they had some really dark art out there that I was looking at. I mean, it was excellent art, but definitely
It's not
dark.
everybody's cup of tea for sure.
It definitely is not. It's not something that I would do personally, but I can appreciate the work that they put into it. In June, you have this is a class you're going to be teaching, I'm assuming.
Yes, that's at the Peninsula School of Art in Fish Creek, Door County.
Oh,
And this will be my first time teaching with them, and I'll be doing a basic, you know, beginner level cold wax and oil class up there.
Yeah.
It's a 4-day class, and I've never taught a workshop that long, so I'm completely excited about it. And that's why when this demo came up, this is perfect because this feeds right into what I'll be doing up there this summer.
so have you been there before up in Door County teaching like this, or?
No, I have not taught up there, but I have visited the school several times when I've been up there at the Clearing, which is the folk art school where I take classes with Frankie Johnson. So usually we always take a trip one afternoon. We go visit and see what installation they have going on, what exhibits are happening. So they contacted me last year and asked me if I would be up for doing a beginner's class, and I was so honored and thrilled. So I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, they have some absolutely fabulous art galleries up there that my wife and I go to frequently. We go up there several times a year. So if you're looking for good restaurants, let me know.
Okay.
If you haven't already found them, we probably tried just about every restaurant up there. So
I'll definitely ask you for a list. The other things that are going on that I actually have not listed on here is right now for the next 2 weeks, I'm in a virtual art show with a group called Aux Chicago. And it's just a group of different artists from the Chicago area. And they literally have it set up like you're walking through like a virtual reality art gallery. And you can go through and view, you know, almost all of my paintings. I think I have 15 paintings up for display there. And I just launched representation by a art gallery that's out of Laguna Beach. And it's called the Collective Art Gallery. So they now are representing me online. So I think I have that just on the front page of my website for galleries. So you can find that information there.
Yeah.
So and then a lot of things happening at the beginning of this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had a workout in the Laguna Gallery too on their virtual show. When was that? I forget. Okay. It was like
December?
August or something like that. September,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah, they had a virtual show, and I was accepted in that, and actually sent one of my works out for their in-person gallery show.
Okay, so, awesome.
So,
well, congratulations.
Yeah,
it's a great place.
Yeah, it appeared nice from what I could see on their website as far as, you know, the building and everything. So, yeah, that's great. Okay, and if anyone wants to find out more about you, if you go to the website and click on the About, you'll see a lot more information, some of the awards, many awards that she's won. I have to note that you've, in the past, have been a fairly frequent participant in the Starling Factory Fourth Fridays.
Yes.
And I and a couple other members from the Antioch Fine Arts Gallery, as well as the Lake County Art League, are in those frequently also. So they're really fun when you can do them in person.
Yeah.
So
It's the best time ever.
Yeah, my wife and I go. We go with a couple of friends that also have work in the show, and we just enjoy the food there and the people and the musicians. A great place. So, okay, back to two of us here. Now, that basically is it. Do you have anything else? I would ask you for the tour, but with your battery dying, I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, probably not. And what I did set up right next to me, though, was a little bit of the tools of the trade that you will see me using Monday night during our demonstration.
Oh,
so
okay.
I can just kind of pull this over here. Let's go for it. I probably have enough battery to do a little. Let me see if I can get some stuff here. So this is kind of the crazy gear that I use when I paint. I have a variety of palette knives in different shapes. These are my favorite little toothpicks to use to carve into paint. They're, I don't even know what they're called. Stimudent toothpicks. These are awesome cold wax tools. I use brayers. I sometimes use orange terpene, Galkid. That's something I add to my wax mixture to make it a little bit more shiny. I have marble dust. I always wear gloves. I've got lots of big giant brushes, but this is just your average bowl scraper. I paint almost extensively with that. Small little tools that are used for sculptures. Just the other day, I was using my pan pastels into my cold wax. I use charcoal. I love to use cheesecloth. Here's just a couple of the colors I was telling you guys to get. Just I have black and white and one color to play with. Sometimes I use Galkid gel as well because that will build up the thickness of my paint. And over here, I have a couple things that I'll be using. This is oil paper by Arches, so the same company that makes watercolor paper. And I already put one little glaze of color on it, so when I start demoing for you guys, you're going to see how I build up layers. So normally it's just a white sheet. So I have two different sizes of it because I can show you then on Monday how I would actually take this and mount it to a board or get it framed. So this is a great cheap way to experiment with cold wax medium. And then my other favorite boards are Gesso Boards, in case any of you aren't familiar with it. And then this is the Arches oil paper already mounted on a board by Raymar. So Raymar will actually sell these, and I get them sometimes just on Amazon. I don't know if you can see the little thing on there, but these are great. You can use canvas, but I'll just warn you guys that when I work with wax, I usually come in and start scratching into layers and removing some of the history. So I don't want to work on canvas because I don't want to poke through the canvas and rip a hole. So I like to work on boards almost strictly. So this is just a big giant gesso board behind me. And just, I'm going to show you really quick here too. Across from here, this is just a board that I haven't put any gesso on yet. I usually use ground for oil paint, and I can create texture right from the beginning. But these are a little bit cheaper than the gesso boards. And then I can just kind of go crazy, and I don't have to worry about damaging anything.
Yeah.
But you can use anything. So if you guys wanted to paint along and try some stuff out, literally anything you have will work.
Okay. All right. And that's all I have. So thank you.
All right. Looking forward to Monday night, guys. Thanks for inviting me. And Jeff, thanks for your time today.
Well, thank you for putting up with me because I know you've been a very, I'm appreciative of how much time you've spent with me trying to get some of the stuff to work, which we still haven't gotten it, but we always have Zoom. So
we have Zoom, and it's all a work in progress.
Yes, yes. So, okay. Thank you very much then.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
We'll talk to you Monday night.